I want to talk about something that happens a lot when you have chronic illness. People think they're helping. They give advice, they offer solutions, they tell you what you need to do to get better. And after a while, it can start to feel like everyone around you has a cure for you, except you. The most recent example happened. A friend called me and asked how I was doing. I told her the truth. I'm still not feeling well and I had just gotten COVID again. Then she asked me, "Do you want to hear what I think you should do?" And I hesitated because I'm exhausted from hearing what everyone thinks I should do. I told her, "I don't know, it depends what you're going to say." Because just a few weeks before that, I had gone to an appointment to get a specific test done. During the appointment, the practitioner asked me about all the supplements I take. He told me I needed to cut down on them, follow a specific diet, and test my urine alkalinity every morning. And even if someone has good intentions, hearing another long list of things you need to change can become overwhelming. When you're already sick, managing symptoms, appointments, treatments, and daily life, another person's solutions can feel like another responsibility being added to your plate. My friend said, No, that's not the kind of thing I was going to say. So I asked, "Okay, what were you going to say?" And then she told me, "You're always thinking about yourself. You're always thinking about being sick. You need to think about other people. You need to go out and volunteer for a charity organization 4 hours a day. I told her, "I can't do that. I don't have the energy. I'm too sick." She said, "You need to start small. Start with a half hour a day." But the thing is, I know my body. I know my limitations. And what was difficult was that she wouldn't accept my answer. She kept pushing the idea that this was what I needed. She said, "What you're doing until now obviously isn't working." And that sentence really bothered me, because what does that actually mean? Does it mean that if resting hasn't brought me back to health, the answer is to force myself to do things my body can't handle? If resting hasn't fixed me, does that mean I should ignore every signal my body is giving me? It's like telling someone with a broken leg, "Well, walking hasn't healed it, so maybe you should run." Sometimes the reason someone isn't better isn't because they aren't trying hard enough. Sometimes they're trying incredibly hard. Over the years, I've heard so many comments about my illness. "You're taking too many supplements. That's what's causing your symptoms. You need to get more exercise. You need to make more friends. So, all your symptoms are from the trauma of your divorce?" My symptoms don't even track with my divorce. But they say, everything is trauma, even if you don't realize it. Obviously, you don't really want to get better. If you wanted to get better, you would be better by now. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. But what people don't understand is that managing a chronic illness is not doing the same thing over and over again. I try things, I pay attention. If something helps, I continue. If something doesn't help, I usually stop. Or if something, I can't tell if something's helping, that's a little more complicated. And I have to figure that out. The problem is that chronic illness is complicated, and some things simply take time. For example, when you're dealing with heavy metals, it's not an overnight process. It takes time to remove the metals. It takes patience. When you have many symptoms, progress may not look dramatic from the outside. Maybe one symptom improves. Maybe something changes slightly. Maybe you notice a difference, but someone else doesn't because they're looking for a complete transformation. There usually isn't one magic cure that fixes everything in one moment. I've also heard, "You're ruining your life because you've shut down your business. It's because you watch movies." As if I'm pretending to be sick because I want an excuse to relax or be less productive. It's anxiety. It's trauma. You need to do the Sarno method. And then there are people who don't want to hear anything about illness. Be normal. I don't talk about medical stuff. But what does be normal really mean? Does it mean I should make everyone else comfortable by pretending I'm okay? Because that's something many people with chronic illness become experts at. There's a quote I really like. "Those with chronic illness aren't faking being sick. They're actually faking being well." And I think that says so much. A lot of people with chronic illness spend enormous amounts of energy trying to appear okay. Something else I've noticed is that sometimes when people criticize me, make comments about my illness, or push their solutions onto me, it seems like it may have more to do with what they're experiencing themselves. Sometimes people are dealing with their own symptoms, their own fears, or their own discomfort with being unwell. And their way of coping is to ignore it, push through it, or convince themselves that it isn't there. I started thinking about this after my conversation with my friend. After she was pushing so hard for me to volunteer and basically force myself to be more active, I changed the subject and asked about her kids. She told me that her kids had been out of school because they had a virus. She said that now when her son complains that he doesn't feel well, she distracts him so he'll go to school. And I realized something. That may be her way of dealing with illness. Her instinct is to ignore symptoms, distract from them, and hope they go away. But I used to do that. I used to push through. I used to ignore my body. I used to pretend I was okay, and eventually that approach caught up with me. I also know that my friend has amalgam fillings, and I wonder whether she may be dealing with her own health struggles that she hasn't fully connected to her symptoms. I don't know if that's the case, and I don't know what's happening in someone else's body. But I do wonder if some of the intensity behind her advice was coming from her own experience. That maybe she was trying to convince me to ignore my symptoms because that's how she tries to cope with her own. Sometimes the advice people give us reveal more about how they handle their own struggles than what we actually need. The lesson I've learned is that everyone has their own relationship with illness. Some people cope by pushing through. Some people cope by searching for answers. Some people cope by resting and listening to their bodies. But what hurts is when someone takes their own coping strategy and insists that it's the answer for everyone else. If you know someone with chronic illness, maybe the most helpful thing you can say isn't, "Have you tried this?" or "You need to do this." Maybe it's simply, "I believe you. I'm sorry you're going through this. How can I support you?" Because sometimes the hardest part of being sick isn't just the illness. It's feeling like you have to constantly prove that you're sick.